So we're going to do some more speaking today, TOEFL speaking. Before we do, just a quick sound check. Can you confirm that you hear this?
An interesting tourist attraction I have visited is the Colosseum in Rome.
Could everybody hear that sample? Okay, great. And volume was fine? Okay, good. All right, let's get started. Okay, we're going to take a look today at TOEFL Speaking Task 1, and I'm going to show you a few samples and you're going to have lots of opportunities to practice. So here are 4 example questions that you might get in Task 1. So we're going to take a look at these, we're going to listen to a few samples and you're going to have a chance to answer them. So the first one asks, what is your favorite kind of food? Talk about an interesting tourist attraction. Talk about a time when you have experienced success. What is your favorite style of clothing? So here you can see the questions all ask you something related to an experience that you've had in your life, something that you've done, or a place that you've been. It might also ask you about a person, to talk about a person that you know. So you're going to have your own personal experience to draw on when answering these questions. Now they're all followed by describe it and explain why. Describe it and say why. Okay, so you can see that after each question you're asked to do something and you're asked to describe or give a description of that thing that you have chosen to talk about. So you need to describe a situation, experience, person or thing, and use details from your personal experience to explain why. So why you chose to talk about that particular situation, experience, person or thing. You'll need to answer clearly and specifically. That means using details and examples to explain your response. You're going to see and hear the prompt. So you're going to see it displayed on the screen and you're also going to hear it read to you. You'll have 15 seconds to take short notes and 45 seconds to speak. So in that 15 seconds preparation time, you're really only going to have time to brainstorm what you're going to talk about. So if the question says, talk about a famous person in your country and describe why they're famous and why you chose them, really you've only got 15 seconds to think of one person among many that you might know. And you're really going to only have time to sort of write that person's name and then think about a few sort of main points that you're going to talk about. Then when that 45 seconds preparation time is up, the recording automatically begins and you'll have to start to speak. Now, most of the speaking is really going to be freestyling. So you're going to have enough time to think about the main thing you want to talk about, and then you're really going to pretty much freestyle the rest of the way. But you want to keep your answer focused. So keeping in mind that you want to start off with a general statement. So what? What are you talking about? What's the place, the person, the time in your life? And then you want to give 1 to 2 specific details. These answer the why you chose it. So why you chose that place. If the question asks, choose a place that you like to visit and describe why you like it. So the what would be the place, for example, the park next to your house, and the why will be, why do you like it? What's so special about it? These will be the details. So let's take a look at an example. What is your favorite kind of food? Describe it and explain why it's your favorite. So here's my sample response to that. Oh, okay, I'll display it on my screen for you so you can watch the timer at the same time. Where's my timer gone? Lost my mouse. Okay, we're not going to have the timer. Oh, there it is. Okay. I love many different kinds of food, but I'd say my favorite is Lebanese food. It's the food closest to my heart and to my taste buds. It reminds me of time with loved ones and is always associated with good memories of family sitting around a table and eating together. It also tastes delicious and is quite healthy. There are lots of salads and also a lot of vegetarian dishes, as well as lamb and chicken. Also, the food is fragrant and has a unique flavor. So the variety and tastiness of Lebanese food, as well as the happy memories associated with it, make it my favorite cuisine. Oh, right on time. Okay, so that was a 45-second response. So you can see that I answered the what. So what is my favorite kind of food? And I also described why I like it. And I gave 2 reasons there why I like it. Firstly, it's associated with good memories of family. And also I talked about the taste and the variety of the food. So that was my response to that question. Now it's your turn. This is a pre-practice. Okay, so same question. What is your favorite kind of food? Describe it and explain why it is your favorite. So 2 things there. Describe the food and explain why it's your favorite food. 15 seconds to prepare a quick response. Time starts now. And that's the end of the preparation time. Okay, 45 seconds to practice your response. And you can begin speaking now. And time is up. So how did you go with that one? Okay, if you guys have any questions as we go along, you can type them into the chat. And then at the end of the class, I'll go back and take a look at your questions and I'll answer them at the end. Okay, let's take a look at a practice. So talk about an interesting tourist attraction you have been to. Describe it and say why it was interesting. So I'm going to give you 15 seconds to think about your response, and then I'm going to give you 45 seconds to speak. And your preparation time starts now. Okay, time to speak your response. And your time is up. So you can see that the 15 seconds preparation time really isn't a lot. It's really only enough time time for you to sort of think of a place. So you may have visited many tourist destinations, but you only need to talk about one. So that 15 seconds, you really want to narrow it down and think about, okay, which place do I want to talk about? And it might not even necessarily be your favorite. You might just want to talk about a place that you can talk about for 45 seconds. All right. So you want to think about what answer are you going to get more out of, or to be able to have enough ideas to talk about. So let's take a look at a sample, or listen to a sample.
An interesting tourist attraction I have visited is the Colosseum in Rome. It is a huge amphitheater that was used in the ancient times to watch events like gladiator games. An interesting tourist attraction I have visited is the Colosseum in Rome. It is a huge amphitheater that was used in the ancient times to watch events like gladiator games. I don't know much else about the history in terms of when it was built or how long it was used for, but I found it interesting because it is a huge ancient structure in the middle of a busy city. The past right in the middle of the present. It's quite a fascinating reminder of history. I couldn't help but think about all of the things that had happened there so long ago and imagine what it would have looked like back then.
Okay, sorry about that false start. That was actually a 45-second response. So you can compare that response to your own. You can hear how the speaker named the tourist destination, which was the Colosseum in Rome. They described the destination as best as they could, and they also explained why they like it. So they answered all parts of the question. Okay, let's take a look at the second practice. Talk about a time when you experienced success. Describe the experience and say why it was a success for you. 15 seconds to prepare your answer. Oops. Okay, you may now speak for 45 seconds. Okay, time is up. Now, success could be, you could have talked about, for example, a time where you passed an important exam and you were successful at that. You could talk about a time where you were successful at achieving a goal that you had set for yourself. So again, 15 seconds, just enough time to sort of quickly think of an example from your own experience. So let's take a listen to a sample response to that one.
A time that I experienced success was when I finally learned to ride my bike on my own. I was about 7 years old, and my dad had been trying to teach me for a while. But I was so scared and never had the confidence to ride on my own without the training wheels. Finally, one day, my father took off the training wheels, and I had no choice but to ride the bike alone. I did it, and I rode all the way to the end of the road before I fell. But when I fell, I was fine and got up and kept riding. This was a success for me because I was able to overcome my fear and have confidence in myself that I could do it. And even if I fell, to get back on and try it.
Okay, right on time. Last practice. What is your favorite style of clothing? Describe it and explain why it is your favorite. 15 seconds to prepare your answer. Okay, you may speak your response, and your 45 seconds starts now. Okay, how did you go with that one? Now, you might get a question that you're not necessarily that, you're not going to find that easy. For example, this one, talk about your favorite style of clothing. Some people really aren't into clothing or fashion. In that case, you could just talk about that the fact that you don't really have a favorite style of clothing, that you're more into comfort, and you like to wear things that are comfortable, and talk about that, about why, and then maybe describe an outfit that you have that's comfortable. So some questions you might find easier than others. Okay, let's listen to a sample response for that question. Oops, all right. We're not going to get the timer, but that's okay. Here we go.
I think I would say that I prefer comfort over fashion. Maybe because I usually like to wear jeans and a t-shirt, unless I have to wear something more formal, like say maybe for work. I love my jeans and t-shirts usually because they convey my personality a little bit more, which I think is, a little bit laid back, easygoing and fun. My t-shirts are all, quirky, but interesting prints and codes, which I like, and I think they show my personality. One of my favorite t-shirts is one that says, of course, I talk to myself. Sometimes I need expert advice.
Okay, what did you think of those responses? So they were all high-level responses. They all answered the questions. They stated the thing that they were talking about, the what, and then they went on to explain why by describing the thing and also giving specific examples of it. So let's take a quick look at the evaluation. So the speaking is scored out of 4, and each speaking task, there are 6 speaking tasks, each one is going to be scored out of 4. Now, to get a 4, you need to have achieved all of the following. So you need to have given a well-paced delivery, which means fluency as well as pronunciation. You need to have used effective grammar and vocabulary, and it does allow for minor errors, but these errors don't affect the meaning. And you need to have given a well-developed response with clear progression of ideas. That means you stated the thing that you chose to talk about and that you gave relevant details and examples. So you have to have done all of those 3 things to get a 4. To get a 3, you need to have achieved at least 2 out of 3 of these. So generally clear speech with minor pronunciation difficulties, meaning a couple of words were a little bit unclear. Effective use of grammar and vocabulary with some imprecision that may affect fluency. That means there could have been a few words that were imprecisely pronounced and possibly the examiner wasn't able to understand them. Mostly coherent response, meaning your response made sense, it was well organized, but some ideas weren't elaborated well enough, meaning they weren't developed, or the examples weren't that clear. So at least 2 of those to get a 3. To get a 2, we'll just quickly look at 2. It means that the speech requires listener effort, so the listener really has to pay attention to make sense of what you're saying. The grammar and vocabulary is limited, and it means you weren't able to fully express your ideas because of lack of language. And the response is somewhat connected to the task, but the ideas are repetitive or they might be limited. So the responses that you heard were 3-4 level responses. Okay, question time. Let me take a look at your questions. Okay, so Asmita has asked, can we mention just one kind of dish? So in reference to the first question that we had, which was talk about a kind of food that you like, describe it and explain why you like it. So one kind of dish in that case would be more of an example because it asks for kind of food. So you can generally talk about a cuisine if you like. So my favorite kind of food is Indian food. In particular, my favorite dish is chicken korma, for example, and describe that and why. So the dish would be more your example rather than the thing that you talk about. Any other questions? You're welcome. Okay, just make sure, guys, that the thing that you do choose to talk about, you start off general and then you get more specific. So if it's talking about the question related to a tourist attraction that you visited, our speaker talked about the Colosseum in Rome. So in general, the place. And then he got more specific by describing, the Colosseum, where it was, and then explained why he found it interesting. So because the past is right in the middle of the present. So an observation that he found interesting. So keep that in mind. One sort of point to talk about is why you chose that particular place to talk about. So this is just task 1. So we practiced 4 of those examples. Next week, we're going to practice task 2, and we're also going to look at 4 different questions and have chance to practice all of those as well. So the more practice you have, the more comfortable and confident you're going to feel on test day in your ability to think of examples and also to express yourself clearly. Okay, we have another question. What if you're asked a question of agreement? Do you agree or disagree? In that case, you might want to take one side. It's sort of easier within 45 seconds because it's not a lot of time. So to take one side. So you could get asked something like actually this is more the opinion task. This is more related to task 2, which we'll talk about next week. But if you are asked something like, some people think that university students should volunteer, volunteering should be compulsory. Do you agree or disagree? And explain why. In that case, you would say either, yes, I do think that volunteering should be compulsory for university students. And then you can give 2 reasons. Or no, I don't think it should be compulsory. And you need to give 2 reasons. So 45 seconds is a lot of time. So just choose one side and stick to that. But yes, we'll talk about that more next week in the task 2 lesson. Now, we have another question related to the tourism question. Can I talk about a trip with my family in my attraction trip? Absolutely, you can. So you can say, because it's asking you to talk about your favorite tourist attraction and then why is it your favorite? So in that case, the reason why it's your favorite is because you have great memories with your family there, and you can give an example. So again, general topic. So my favorite tourist attraction is, I don't know, Stonehenge in London. And it's my favorite because it was my first trip with my husband. We went there on our honeymoon, and for that reason, it has special memories for me. Okay, Looks like that's all the questions. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and keep practicing. You guys are on the right track. And I'll see you guys next week for Speaking Task 2. Take care. Bye.